Hey guys, so I am in a critical thinking class at Bowling Green State University, and one of our assignments was that we had to review one of four books that we're reading throughout the semester. And so the one that I chose was Feminism is for Everybody by Bell Hooks, Passionate Politics. So I'm just gonna delve into it. So basically, just kind of summarizing it first, Bell Hooks' book Feminism is for Everybody is basically a nonfiction work kind of centered around both the history of and the current implications of the feminist movement. And as you could kind of guess from the title, it's mostly based on the inclusive feminism or intersectional feminism. I personally didn't really know what the definition of that was when I first saw it on the internet or wherever I saw it, and so I thought I'd kind of include a definition of it. So basically what intersectional feminism is, as is paraphrased from Merriam-Webster, the manner in which different forms of discrimination overlap, intersect, and interact. So drawing from this definition the conclusion that all forms of injustice should be treated with the same urgency, Bell Hooks basically focuses almost exclusively on intersectional feminism. Hooks delves into issues like abortion, masculinity, lesbianism, etc., and basically all the while is holding true the statement that this is all very dependent on the combined effort of everybody, whether you're black, you're white, you're male, you're female. So she holds this very true, like, throughout the entire book, is that it's very focused on intersectional feminism and how important that is. So as far as organization goes, Hooks lays this book out almost like a textbook in that she has very specific headings for each chapter and she stays very true to those headings. So some examples of these headings and what she focuses the chapters on based on that. One of the chapters is based solely on the consciousness raising groups early in the contemporary feminism movement, and then she has one that's focused on the history and prevailing characteristics of the reproductive rights movement. She also has chapters on classism and its effect on feminism, race and gender, feminist parenting, lesbianism, and at this point I'm basically just kind of reciting the table of contents so you get the point, but she sticks very much to this kind of strict classification of each topic, and she does that, I think, in a way to make it easier for readers to read it, because it was very easy to kind of follow along and see, like, okay, so we're in this chapter now, so this is what she's talking about. And it kind of just allowed her to cover a lot of bases, but also make it a lot easier for the reader to read. Okay, so now that I've kind of covered some of the summary of the book and what it contains, I'd like to kind of go back a little bit to why I personally chose to read this book, because we could choose between 4 books and this was the one that I specifically chose. So as for my personal background, I come from a background that I kind of like to explain is 2 cultural bubbles as a Venn diagram, and I'm in the middle. One of the bubbles is the city south of me, which is where I went to school, and it's very much kind of farm, like very white, very kind of closed-minded, kind of conservative. And the city north of me, where I went to church, and that's kind of the city that I was more often drawn to, was very liberal, very diverse, very open-minded. And the church that I did go to in that city was Unitarian Universalist, which is very liberal, very diverse, and would probably honestly preach this book exactly. They were very active in the Black Lives Matter movement, very active in feminist movements, so it's a very liberal, very open-minded church, so that's kind of what I was raised in. So knowing all of that, it's not really surprising that I've kind of always classified myself as a feminist. I've always believed that it's kind of my duty and should be everyone's duty to fight for my and others' rights. So knowing that, I thought it would be a good challenge for me to think more critically about this truth that I've kind of always just blindly accepted about myself. So given my background, it's not really at all surprising that I had a lot of moments throughout the book that I can only really describe with the this emoji, which I'll put like right here. Basically moments that I was like, yes, I agree with that, that's very true, like say it louder for the ones in the back. Bottom line, I agreed with a lot of what she said, and not only that, but I agreed with it passionately, and she seemed to have that effect throughout the entire book. She writes in a way that makes her point clear and makes it aggressive, which not a lot of writers are able to kind of carry through. She wholeheartedly believes that the truths that she speaks of and the reforms she calls for are necessary, and she makes that point clear throughout and makes it easy for audience members to agree with, or at least to see where she's coming from, and that was definitely an effect that it had on me. Regarding some of the things that I maybe didn't fully agree with, I remember early on in the book, in one of the earlier chapters, they mentioned that men only got into feminism because they were in a romantic relationship and they wanted to make sure that they kept the romantic relationship and kept that woman's trust. That kind of irked me a little bit, actually. Basically every single guy in my life who is feminist, I have a boyfriend who's feminist, I have my dad who's feminist, I have my brother who's feminist. A lot of the leaders at my church are feminist, a lot of my teachers at school, even though I have the school in kind of the more conservative area, a lot of the teachers were feminist. They didn't just get into it because they were married to or were involved with a feminist woman. They got into it because that's what they believed in. They believed that women should have equal rights. So some of the things that she said regarding that kind of weren't ringing true for me personally. I mean, they might for a lot of other people, but for me personally, they didn't. The other thing that kind of seemed a little weird to me was that every time she referred to a same-sex female couple, she referred to them as being lesbian, which makes sense because they both love women, and that makes sense because they're like an exclusive relationship and it's woman on woman. But I think it's very important to bring attention to all of the other people in the spectrum. I personally am bisexual, so that kind of seemed a little odd that she wouldn't bring that to attention. I mean, not just for me personally, but also for transgender, which she does touch on transgender, but for like pansexual and all of those different people in that spectrum, I thought it was a little bit weird that she didn't fully bring that to attention. And also, not only that, but because the word lesbian is very kind of exclusive to only woman, only loving woman, and not woman loving woman and men, or woman loving all people on the spectrum, is a very exclusive term, so it kind of seemed a little weird to me that she only used that. Some other kind of nitpicky questions that I had, she uses we a lot throughout the book and doesn't really clarify what we is. One can assume from the context a lot of times that she means black women in America because she is black, or sometimes it's just we as in the women involved in the feminist movement, and she doesn't always clearly define that. Another kind of, again, nitpicky thing is she doesn't put the word the before feminist movement. I don't know if it's just to kind of make feminist movement its own entity, that it's the feminist movement should be implied already. I don't really know why. I mean, in most other works that talk about the feminist movement, they talk about the feminist movement rather than just feminist movement. Something that I was kind of hoping to delve into more also was what the effect of the repetition of the term sisterhood has on readers rather than like other synonymous terms. I did notice since the beginning of the book, but really specifically in chapter 3, this term kind of was brought to light, and she did define it clearly, but she also kind of just kept using it throughout, whereas there are other words that could be used there. I think the effect that I gathered from it was that it brought people together and it made people feel like we are in the sisterhood. This is an entity, this is its own thing. But I was just wondering if that maybe made it seem a little different for the men who, like she mentions in the book, for the men who are involved in the feminist movement. Does the term sisterhood kind of make that seem exclusive to only females? So all in all, I would say I definitely enjoyed the book, which if you didn't gather from before, I have a lot of reasons for that. So personally, for me, it definitely kind of validated a lot of beliefs that I already had regarding feminism, but also looking at it from the perspective of if someone didn't really know a lot about feminism, it definitely covered all of the main grounds, I'd say, for it in a way that's really easy to read. So I definitely recommend this for anybody who considers themselves a feminist or for anybody who's looking to learn more about feminism as a whole. So I would recommend this for anybody who thinks that they are a feminist, who identifies as a feminist, and wants to kind of get more validation for those beliefs that they currently have, as well as kind of looking at it from a different angle, looking at it from more intersectional angle if that's not what they have previously experienced. I think that's really important. Also for anybody who's just looking to learn more about feminism as a whole, as this book definitely lays out in a very well-structured manner, the several kind of big, broad, most important parts of feminism, as well as also kind of giving different personal beliefs, because I think she is biased, but in a way that is important to look at still. So yeah, all in all, I would say I definitely recommend this book, and I definitely enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.